Welcome to Search the Scriptures. We are on the book of 1 Samuel today, starting it off today with study number 1, another fantastic book in the Bible. So we leave Ruth behind and go to 1 Samuel. It's my favorite week of the whole year this week while I'm recording this. Thanksgiving week. Can't be a better week than that, I don't think. A week where you almost do nothing the whole week long. It's my favorite holiday of the year. I was on the mission field. I could no problem being away from home on Christmas, no problem being overseas on Easter, but to miss Thanksgiving, oh, that was tough. A truly American holiday, my favorite time of the year. If you're watching this near Thanksgiving, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. We are on 1 Samuel chapter number 1 today in this study. 3 different questions we're going to look at today. From the first 16 verses, list the phrases describing Hannah's distress. And do you find her retaliating against her rival? And how did she dispel her grief? So think about those things in the first 16 verses. Second question, account for the change of verse 18b. Something changes in her attitude, and how can a similar experience be ours? And question 3, from the last few verses, compare those verses with Psalm 16, 12 through 14, and Ecclesiastes 5, 4, and 5. Do you find all the encouragement that you ought in the faithfulness and unforgetfulness of God? Ecclesiastes 5, 4, and 5 is about the importance of keeping vows that we make, and Psalm 16 is about the blessings of God fulfilling His promises. So let's look at 1 Samuel chapter 1, beginning with the very first verse. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zuphite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Zoram, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives, one called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. And year after year this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. And whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion, because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. And this went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. And her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? And once, when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house, and in her deep anguish Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. And she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. So he'd be a Nazirite. And as she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. And Eli thought she was drunk, and said to her, How long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Not so, my lord, Hannah replied. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my anguish and grief. And Eli answered, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. And she said, May your servant find favor in your eyes. And then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. And Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she named him Samuel. saying, because I asked the Lord for him. And when her husband Elkanah went up with all his family to offer the annual sacrifice to the Lord and to fulfill his vow, Hannah did not go. She said to her husband, after the boy is weaned, I will take him and present him before the Lord, and he will live there always. Do what seems best to you, her husband Elkanah told her. Stay here until you have weaned him, only may the Lord make good his work. So the woman stayed at home and nursed her son until she had weaned him. And after he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. And when the bull had been sacrificed, they brought the boy to Eli, and she said to him, Pardon me, my Lord, as surely as you live. I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. Well, from the first part of this chapter, one of the phrases that describe Hannah's distress, and we find her retaliating against her fellow wife. Sounds kind of weird to say that. And how did she dispel her grief? Well, Hannah was in a state of mental depression. She was to the point of passing her days weeping and refusing to eat, and there was this cloud of darkness that was overshadowing her mind. Yet she did not retaliate against her rival wife. Instead, she dispelled her grief by pouring out her heart to the Lord in prayer. If you're in that situation today, just crying all the time, not wanting to eat, in that state of depression, cry out to the Lord. He will hear your prayer. Question number 2, account for the change of verse 18, and how can a similar experience be ours? Well, Hannah's transformation was due to receiving a word from the Lord. The word from the Lord instantaneously transformed her. She was no longer downcast and immediately began to eat again. You want to get a word from the Lord? Be in the Word of God. Partake in a study like Search the Scriptures. Be in the house of God this Lord's Day. That's where you will find the Lord's Word, and that's where you'll be changed. Question 3, with verses 26 through 28, compare that to Psalm 16, 12 through 14, and Ecclesiastes 5, 4, and 5. Do you find all the encouragement that you ought in the faithfulness and unforgetfulness of God? Well, you know, too often I think when God remembers to keep His promises, we refuse to complete our own promises that we made to Him. And the story of Hannah really is a perfect example of God fulfilling His end of the bargain, and the recipient, Hannah, completing her obligation to the Lord. Stop and think about the things God has done in your life, especially if this is a Thanksgiving week, and everything that He has done, and all the obligations He has fulfilled. Are you fulfilling your obligations to Him? Are you fulfilling the obligation to tithe? Fulfilling the obligation to bring offerings? Fulfilling the obligation to not forsake gathering in the house of the Lord, all the more as you see that day approaching? Fulfilling your obligation to testify and to go into all the world and preach the gospel and make disciples of all nations. He's fulfilling His obligations. Are we fulfilling ours? I hope you're fulfilling your obligations today. I hope you've enjoyed this study in 1 Samuel chapter 1. Hope you'll be with us the next time for study number 2 in 1 Samuel. Hope you're having a great day, and may God richly bless the rest of your day.